continue on with that is, so in 2015, this is where I learned a lot of my knocks and scrapes and bruises. We had 2015, we did 100 million. And then, the following year we lost $40 million, and the drop was dramatic. And, we made 90% of our income was from insurance companies, from, Anthem, Cigna, Aetna, United Healthcare, all the big five basically. And they decided that, what happens is they did what's called a prepayment review, and they stopped paying.
Welcome to the Building to Scale podcast, where we bring real entrepreneur stories that showcase the challenges and successes in building and scaling an entrepreneurial business. Our host, Jeff Chastain, is a business transformation coach with Admentis, where he coaches business leaders and their teams with a proven set of principles and tools, helping them gain clarity in and get more of what they want from their business. Make sure to stick around until the end of the show, and we will reveal how you can become our next guest.
Hello, everyone. Jeff Chastain here with the Building to Scale podcast again, where I get the opportunity to speak with entrepreneurial business leaders and influencers, hearing both their stories of challenges and success, where they were able to grow and scale their business to where it is today. Now, today we've got Mark Shandrow here with Asana Recovery, a residential treatment center out in California. And not a lot of detail there, Mark. So why don't you first off, welcome to the show, and then fill us in a little bit more on what Asana is and what your mission is there.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Jeff, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be able to get out there and get the word out about substance abuse. Asana Recovery is a residential treatment center, as you mentioned, here in Orange County. And what that means is people that are suffering from alcohol addiction, drug addiction, are looking, and it's pretty serious, and are looking for an inpatient program, which means that they come to us. They might fly in from another state, they might drive in locally, but a lot of times they're coming in from, Texas, Arizona, New York, New Jersey, all around the United States. They're coming in and they're staying with us between 30 and 90 days. And what we're doing is we're helping them first, what's called a medical detox, going through a medical detox where we're getting the drugs out of their system. And it's fully, we have a full medical team. So, they might be getting, Valium or other kind of, drugs to help them get off of whether it's heroin, methamphetamines, or alcohol. Alcohol is a big thing because you can get seizures if you come off it too fast. Watch them, we monitor them. And then once they go through that process, they go into what's called a residential program, and we work with them, with therapists, with case managers, with group therapy, to really better understand what the disease is all about and what their underlying their issues are. It could be trauma. It could be, they've lost someone, important in their life, and they've turned to substance abuse to cover that up. It could be child abuse, the PTSD, and really kind of work on them through those. And then finally, really giving them life skills to deal with their addiction and deal with their, and maintain their sobriety and maintain recovery and getting back into society, being a, productive member of the community, whether it's getting a job or going to school or, getting back to your family, anything like that, just so that they can get back to their life without drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, makes sense. And unfortunately, obviously being in the middle of a pandemic right now, that's probably a uptick in business. And it's one of those sides that there's always going to be fluctuations in the market, fluctuations and changes, and kind of being situated at the right time, whether it's good or bad to help people, but still being situated at the right time. It's probably a good position to be in at the moment, I'd say.
Yeah.
So,
My mental health is going through the roof, and it's really unfortunate, but suicide rates and drug abuse and alcohol, it's really, next year, I'm anticipating it to even be worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's this pandemic's, it's new and impacting a lot of people in a lot of ways that I don't know that we even realize right now. But so we talked a little bit beforehand, and obviously your background, or you said your background's not necessarily medical. So how did you get to Asana? How did you get to where you are right now? What's some of the backstory there for your journey from a business standpoint?
Yeah. No problem. I went to, I'm back, I grew up back east, University of New Hampshire, and went to economics school and their Whittemore School of Business. And I've always wanted to get into business. In college, I was, painting, I started a painting company, me and a couple of buddies, doing painting, exterior painting for houses during the summertime. And that really got me into understanding business a little bit from like an operating point of view. So I did that. It paid for me to go to school and help me kind of understand, marketing and sales and then running a staff and, of course, doing all the financials and the insurance and the legal and really kind of understanding the complex components of a business. Then I came to California, got involved in the nonprofit world, which is what I wanted to do as well, trying to make the world a better place. It's very idealistic, and came here to California and started a nonprofit where I was a lobbyist and, raised several $1 million for bicycle transportation. And we started one of the first bike parking facilities here in Long Beach. I worked for, from Washington, D.C. to, I had a lot of city clients, Berkeley, San Francisco, and was traveling around the country promoting alternative transportation. And then, at the same time, on the weekends, I was buying real estate. I was buying apartment buildings. I had a great mentor of mine who was a real estate tycoon and kind of taught me the ropes. And I would ride my bike literally around on the weekends and look for abandoned properties. I would, and then I'd find them. And then this was before the internet really, so you'd have to go to the county, you'd have to look up who owned the house, then you send them a letter. I'd send them a handwritten letter. And, I look in classified. So I bought a bunch of property that way, and eventually rolled into full-time real estate and ran a very successful real estate brokerage. After that, took me a little while. I was up to selling about 130, 140 homes a year, primarily bank-owned properties, work with, the likes of Lehman Brothers and Bank of America and Chase, doing asset disposition. We're at a small team. They would go around, they would renovate the houses, we'd get them ready and we'd sell them. And then as the market was dropping, I had a good chance. A friend of mine from Whittemore School of Business back at University of New Hampshire has struggled with heroin addiction for a long time and actually came to California. Here in Orange County and in Florida are the two primary places in the United States that have the highest density of alcohol and drug treatment programs, primarily because of the weather. A lot of people like to get out of, if they're in Michigan and in the wintertime, they want to get somewhere else. They want to go to somewhere sunny. And he came here, got sober, and kind of called me up. I was like, hey, Mark, I want to do this. I want to raise some money. Can you help me do that? And we couldn't get any money to get anyone to put any money together. They're all like, he's a crackhead. I mean, why would we want to give you money? And he was just a pretty exceptional business guy. And, ironically, I put in $5,000 and a $15,000 loan. He did the same, and we had a third partner. And actually in 2015, we did $120 million in sales. Wow. The company, it just blew up, blew up. And 8 years, we became the second fastest growing business in Orange County. We had 1,650 employees. And I went from being kind of a small real estate broker to a full-on healthcare executive, I was running all of the emissions and the sales and the marketing, spending a couple $1 million a month, bringing in clients, and, kind of went from there.
So obviously that was the company before Asana, right?
That was, yes. Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of continue on with that so in 2015, this is where I learned a lot of my knocks and scrapes and bruises. We had 2015, we did 100 million. And then, the following year we lost $40 million, and the drop was dramatic. And, we made 90% of our income was from insurance companies, from, Anthem, Cigna, Aetna, United Healthcare, all the big five basically. And they decided that, what happens is they did what's called a prepayment review, and they stopped paying. They all stopped paying at once. 3 of them stopped paying at once. And then, we were burning about $2 million a week was our weekly burn. And, if you're burning through $2 million a week and you're bringing in $500,000, $1 million, you go through cash fast. And that's what we did. We went through all of our capital. We ended up getting a bank loan. And this is the only time that I did a personal guarantee, which I, learned. That's one of the hard lessons. Try not to do personal guarantees. I did a personal guarantee, all of us, and we signed up and got a lender to provide some financing for us, and and then we went through that money in 6 weeks, and then we were strapped. And because of a lot of the different laws out there, we couldn't consolidate fast enough. Having 1,600 employees, it's really hard to shrink. And we just started selling everything, and we couldn't really break off a lot of the parts of the company. And we had over 400 beds. They were located here in Orange County. They were in Nevada. They were in Texas, and they were all collateralized by this lender. The lender had everything, and so we couldn't sell off pieces of the real estate. We couldn't sell off the businesses to raise capital because it was collateral, and the bank wouldn't let us do it.
Makes sense. Yep. So switching over to Asana, then now what's your, obviously going through that and still the same type of business model. What's your different approach? How are you doing things different now?
Yeah, good question. I think the different approach for me is the biggest one is from a personal point of view is I never wanted to be a healthcare executive. I didn't, I don't want to have to wear a suit every day to work. I didn't want to run, hundreds of employees. It just kind of happened, I mean, with the market, it hit right. We had a good product and we ran at it, and my ex-partner at the time was, he was the CEO. I was a, chief marketing officer, and he was full steam ahead. And I think this time I'm more interested in keeping it smaller, keeping it, a program that I can manage. I get to know all the employees. I get to know, the clients on a one-on-one basis. And, I work, a few hours a day instead of 10 to 12 hours a day. I really decided to change, trade my lifestyle. And that's been the biggest thing. And also having a little bit more direct impact on the clients and having a smaller program that allows much more individualized care. And I think our results are better.
No, it makes sense. Cause like you said, you can't effectively grow too fast. You can scale up too fast, kind of a thing there. And it's, unless you've really got the systems and the foundation in place, then you can lose control of it pretty easily, kind of a thing. Almost imagine driving a car or whatever there, that at some point you're going to start losing traction on the road, slipping, things like that. And I guess the other thing that you kind of pulled out was almost the outside dependency, like you were talking about the insurance companies, because I've seen other companies there before. If you get too leveraged on something effectively you got no control over, you're in trouble at that point if something changes. And I've seen a lot of those actually just here with this pandemic kind of stuff. It's like, okay, global pandemic, you hit the restaurant industry or the event booking kind of industry. It's like, okay, how well can you pivot? And there's going to be challenges, at least in business, no matter what time it is, whether it's a global pandemic or it's just something more localized. And the ability to be still looking far enough ahead and flexible enough. I don't know if you were able to see any of that kind of thing coming, or whether that was more like the pandemic that was just an overnight shutdown, but any kind of visibility there?
Yeah, that's a good question. We made a lot of mistakes. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. We grew way too fast. And, everyone likes to make the analogy. It was like, we're building the 747 while it was in the air, and, we didn't have the systems in place. We didn't have the checks and balances in place. We made a lot of mistakes with our expansion and the way that we structured our financing. Essentially we were growing and we were pouring all of our profits back into growth and not putting them aside for the rainy day or the hit, not putting 6-month reserves in the bank. And then, when the payer stopped paying, we had no backup, right? We had no capital, and we should have grew slower, of course. And we also should have, properly financed our expansion, and use financing instead of, our own profit. Yeah, which allowed us to put the money in the bank, and we would have weathered the storm. The company would be probably around today, maybe half its size, but it was, it was about a 40 million a year EBITDA. I mean, it was a highly profitable company, but when you're taking that money and you're pouring it back in, it's a zero EBITDA.
Yeah. Because that's really the thing, that there's going to be changes. Those are going to be the storms on the horizon, no matter whatever business kind of a thing. Something's going to change, whether it's as simple as just a key employee leaving or a market shift or whatever like that. So yeah, it's doing that kind of pre-planning is it's really easy to sit there and say, hey, things like you said, they're moving. Hey, keep pumping money in this, keep moving it faster, kind of thing. And you got to be careful of going too fast. That there's
Right.
a happy medium in the middle.
And you're always trying to justify to yourself, I could take this money out and I could put it in the stock market and get this, but I know that I could put it back in our company and we can get 100 times growth in a year. And that kind of mentality is it's addicting.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the proper financing set up for when stuff goes crazy and you don't have the money in the bank, it's very stressful. Especially laying off hundreds of people is never fun.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So go back to Asana here for a minute, back to current day. Tell me a little bit more about your current role, because you said you were a little bit more of a sales marketing background.
Mhm.
Obviously not necessarily the health background, but at the same time, you're CEO over a health company, basically.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
what's the day in the world of Mark look like these days?
Okay, good. Yeah, that's a good question. Day on life, well, the good news is, I started this company with my brother, and he worked for me also in the other company. And, what we focus on, like I said, I'm the CEO, but my primary responsibilities tend to be around sales and marketing, running our Google ad campaigns, running our business development campaigns, working and reaching out to past clients. And then, running the financial side, the side last time that kind of, got us in trouble, and really understanding and creating and developing strong relationships with these payers so that we don't see anything come out of the blind side. So, and then surrounding myself with people that are much smarter than me in operations. That's the key. I want to be the dumb guy in the room. I don't want to be the genius. Although I'm not, I don't want to be the one that, is so, I think that's the most important thing. Our clinical team, our medical team, they know way more about, this disease than I will ever. They've all been to school. They all have proven track records, and, let them do their job. And my job is to work with my admissions team and doing the marketing and having them answer the phone and running our scripts and dialogues and converting and bringing the clients in and then letting them kind of do their thing. So, in terms of a day in the life of me, it's really, in terms of work, it's, I'm on a 9:30 leadership meeting call with my team for a half hour. Then I might spend a few hours working with my, Google AdWords guy, and doing some SEO work, primarily online, running our marketing campaigns, and then trying to, end the day around 1:00.
Yeah, you can't beat that kind of schedule. But no, I like what you said about not being the smartest person in the room, because a lot of times I forget what the saying, the exact verbiage of it is. But basically, yeah, that if you're the smartest one there, you're in the wrong room, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
You gotta always have people around you. And really, that's one of the keys almost to anything of having a growing business. That if you're the smartest one, if you're the one controlling all the strings, everything right there, then it's never going to be a growing business. You're basically
Nope.
hamstringing
And
your own
then when you
company
go on vacation or you want to step out, falls apart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you want people to, it's all about leverage, right? To get to this size, to get growth, like you were talking about, you've got to leverage. You have to leverage, and you got to realize that you're not, you got X number of hours in the day, and you've got to really leverage it. What really turned me on to this, and this was probably 20 years ago, was, I'm sure you've read it, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. That completely changed my thinking on how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a businessman, and how to grow and scale a business.
Yeah, and it's really the key to scaling, because if like I said, if you're trying to do it all, if you can't delegate, if you can't leverage that off to other people that have the expertise, then yeah, you're never going to be able to scale it. So if you were to look at, and granted, it's kind of hard these days, but look at a year down the road or 5 years down the road, what do things look like from Asana's perspective, or from your perspective?
That's a good question. We're always building our business to sell. That's how I think now, is no matter what, whether we sell or not, I'm always building it to sell, with audited financials, with, a really clear mission, vision, value, good EBITDA. So it's always doing that. So, for us, it's getting to a point where it's generating a couple $1 million in EBITDA for my brother and I, and has a really strong clinical program. We have a great reputation, and it's very acquirable. And in this business, it's contracts with the providers. It's good facilities, real estate that's, kind of easy to work with, that we own. And it is, a good alumni. system. So having those in place, so I would say 3 to 5 years, we want to be the number one in terms of, we want to be best in class here in Orange County. We want to be the kind of program that people are clamoring to get into, that we have a wait list. And the benefit of that is I can reduce my marketing spend as well. You can, and so that increases your margins and helping, we like to, we bring in 30 to 40 clients every month, so right now we're at 300 or so, 400, and helping 500 to 750 clients every year, getting people sober, getting them back in their life, and not having such a large business, something that's very manageable, and then something that possibly we can replicate in different communities. You build this model, you work it for a little bit, get it refined, and think about expanding into different geographic areas or selling it and doing something else.
Yeah. And I like the idea of always keeping the sale in mind in the future kind of a thing, because that's too many people just are focused on the day-to-day of the business kind of a thing. It's like, okay, whether you sell it or not, at some point you're going to exit the business one way or the other. And
You
if
have to,
the business is only you, there's no value at all there. So yeah, keeping that in mind and having that focus from early on is like, okay, how am I building this to exit out of it at some point in some stage right there, even if you do or don't, but yeah.
And a lot of times, just as simply, it starts with your P&L. Right. And a lot of times, it's just as simple as that, and making sure you have clean books, right? And making sure, for us in this industry, the biggest issue is the insurance payments, right? So having a very transparent and easy to follow accounts receivables, right? Because it's all about the AR. If you can't dig into and analyze and get a really good sense of what your real reimbursement rate is, you're never going to sell.
Yeah. And that's one where a lot of business owners unfortunately struggle, is on the financial side, because we don't have that background. So it's like, you've got much more of that background, but yeah, it's finding a good accountant or a good CPA, whatever kind of a thing there, to make sure that those are clean. Cause yeah, that'll get you in trouble. It's unfortunately not a matter of just looking at the bank account balance and saying, hey, we got money in the bank.
No, you need to understand your cash flow statements. You need to understand your balance sheet. And of course you need to understand your PL. And now you have to do budgeting, we do budgeting every month. We have a budget meeting every week, and making sure that, you're driving the ship correctly, because it's so easy to, and things have got to be in real time, right? If you're looking at financial statements that are 30 days old, it's like too late.
Yeah.
It's too late, you need stuff that's to the day, I think. For me, it's to the day. Maybe bigger businesses to the week, but you've got to have something that's very current, or this ship is 1 degree off and you're gone, right?
Well, it goes back to what you originally started talking about, okay, if you've got real numbers, if you've got real data, you can hopefully see trends that are happening, what's coming on in the future,
That's right.
rather than being surprised about it because, hey, our data is 30 days old, our data is 60 days old. If we knew this a month ago or 2 months ago, we might have been able to make a change or make a course correction. Whereas if we're too late or don't have the data, then yeah, you're setting yourself up that way for things much better to happen.
Data it's all about the data. It's from every part of the business, not only the financial side, but the lead generation side, the quality of treatment side, in terms of what our graduation rate is. All of those numbers, you got to know your metrics. You have to, and what all of them, through the whole system from the beginning to the end.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's actually one of the big things that we're always talking with EOS and with working with clients, is having a scorecard that you can see numbers of all aspects of the business and be able to see, hey, well, what's going on at a snapshot? You don't have to get down in the trenches. You just see, hey, I've got my scorecard. I've got these numbers that are all green. Business must be operating pretty good. I can see the trends, things like that. But yeah, being able to run on numbers is key. And unfortunately, too many entrepreneurial kind of types are gut feel of, hey, I think this sounds like a good direction to go, or hey, this sounds like a good venture to jump into, like you said, without having those numbers or without having the facts to back it up. So that's definitely huge.
Yeah. And for myself, who, does a lot of the sales and marketing, I want to know, what's the pipeline like? I need to know the pipeline, and I need to know all the phases of the pipeline and all the conversion rates and the cost of those conversions, because that's what is going to lead your ship. If you don't have those numbers, you don't understand them, you're not going to see what the future is. You can't even predict it, right? If you don't know what that pipeline looks like, you're kind of, honestly, you're operating blind.
Yeah, you really are at that point. So kind of bringing this back around, wrapping it up here. What's your kind of best tip, strategy, anything that you might wish you'd known a little bit earlier before today or before some of your journey here?
Good question. I think the biggest one is pull cash out. I mean, business is to generate cash for you, pull it out. Pull out as much as you can without suffocating the business and put it in the bank and keep it cash. I mean, you don't reinvest it, or, if you want to do small investments, yeah, but that's the whole purpose of the business, is to generate profit for you. And if you're not looking at that, I mean, you're going to continue to keep pouring into the business. And then one day you're going to look and you're going to be like, I have nothing in the bank. I have this business that's just consuming cash, and, I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's again, that long-term game there, long-term game that you're playing towards too. So definitely appreciate the time. Don't want to cut this short, but like I said, I appreciate the time. If listeners are wanting to learn more about you, learn more about the business, where can they go find some more information for you?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Just honestly, go online. You can check out our website. I have my contact information there. Feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to help anyone, and share any ideas or brainstorm or what have you.
Yep, and we'll put all that in the show notes. Those links will be there and directly to the website. So I appreciate the time here. Appreciate the conversation. It was a good conversation. And I appreciate it again, just having time with us today, helping out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Building to Scale podcast. If you would like to share your entrepreneurial business growth story, please visit buildingtoscale.com/guest. If you got something out of this interview, would you do both us and our guest a favor and share it on your social media accounts? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your player so that you don't miss any future episodes, and make sure to reach out to Jeff Chastain on any of the major social media networks, or check us out at admentis.com.